Hi, this is Dr. Joe with Bits and Pieces. I was having a discussion this morning with a client of the Care Farm, and we were talking about bereavement, grief, the kind of grief that comes when someone we love very, very, very deeply dies. And I started thinking about stress. Stress is a natural response to stressors. And grief, bereavement, is a natural response to, or mourning is a natural response to the death of someone we love very much. So I was thinking this through in my head how, when we're very, very stressed, what are the things that we need from others? Social support, someone to listen to us, someone who holds space for our emotions and lets us express, someone who can help us with some of the practical aspects of stress, like if we're stressed because we don't have enough time in our schedule, then someone comes and helps us make dinner or helps us clean our house. And grief isn't that different. I mean, it's much more intense than just stress, extreme stress. In fact, it reaches the threshold in some cases of post traumatic stress. But we need the same basic things. We need emotional support. We need people who show up for us. We need social support from various systems and sources, faith systems, school systems, our neighbors, our colleagues, family, friends. We need all those things from people when we're in a place of mourning. And if we don't have those things, then like with just stress, we learn to cope with stress in unhealthy ways. The difference is that general stress, the stress of living, is accepted as normal in society. And so people aren't pathologized for being stressed out. It's just part of living in today's society. Whereas there are all kinds of pathologizations that go on around grief. There are many diagnoses in the DSM that people get simply because of a bereavement or loss experience, particularly when it's traumatic. So rather than put the duty on society to support grievers, we put the duty on grievers to figure out how to deal with this enormously painful, traumatic, and stress inducing, in fact, distress inducing experience. And if they aren't coping well, we take an individualized approach and we blame them for not coping. I think it's time for us to stop pathologizing people's reactions to the death of their child or sibling or partner. I think it's time for us to stop blaming them. So I think the duty is on society to help people cope, and they can't cope unless they have good social support. It's hard for us to cope with stress when we don't have good social support. It's hard for us to cope with grief when we don't have good social support. So for mental and medical health providers, instead of stiff-arming people when they come in with a tragedy like the death or the murder of a child or the suicide of a partner or a sibling who was killed in a car accident, rather than stiff-arming and emotionally distancing, being able to hold that for people and not otherizing them, not pulling out a book, because a book creates distance, a table creates distance, and sometimes a diagnosis creates distance. That's just my 2 cents about it. This is how I treat people. This is how I love people in the world who have suffered enormous loss. I hope it makes sense to somebody out there. This is Dr. Joe with Bits